I'm still You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I am your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Brian McCubbin.
Hey, it's Build Week, everybody.
All right, Greg Hectus.
Can't wait.
Tony Groves.
What up, fellas?
And returning Will Gibson.
I'm back.
Well, it's season 2 build week again in iRacing. That means new content updates, and new software updates, and we'll cover it all. We'll also cover what omissions we were hoping for, but didn't make the cut. We'll also explore the horrors of sim racing addiction.
And remember, you can follow along with us on your PC or mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com and selecting show notes. So we hope to see you there.
Are you struggling with maximizing your braking zones when you're on iRacing? Locking up when you're trying to push it to the limit? David was in your shoes not too long ago. He'd see his competition braking deeper, but no matter what would try, he couldn't match them. Until he started using the Sim Coach's P1 Pro pedals. With their true hydraulic design, they feel just like you're driving a car. They're made right in the USA and even offer a lifetime warranty. For a limited time, Sim Coaches is offering you guys 10% off your order. You won't find a better discount anywhere. Head over to simcoaches.com and use the code iRacersLounge at checkout to get that discount. Now, we have a video later in the show from Lawrence at Sim Coaches telling how to adjust the pedals. Amazing 500 pounds of pressure you need to push that brake pedal. There's no doubt you need to wear shoes.
Good thing David's a power lifter. He can get
Perfect
that 500
match.
pounds. He can get that 500 down right on the pedal. No problem.
Well, let's get into hype. Lots of hype this week. Pre-build first.
Yeah, so they always iRacing or their staff always puts out these little teasers right before the actual build comes, and they started early with Junior putting out a picture of the new Buick LeSabre for the '87 Cup cars. So he posted on his Twitter account. It's in iRacing colors. It's a looking car. It's their typical red, white, and blue scheme. All the sponsorships and all is on there, and it is a good looking car. So that was coming out this week, and Dale Jr. spilled the beans on how that was going to look. He had mentioned it a while ago that they were working on this car for this build. So it wasn't a surprise that this is going to be coming out in this build. It was just cool to see this first picture.
Now, I'm going to disagree a little bit, Brian. I mean, I raced this in week 13. They have every 30 minutes. It was 87 cars at Talladega. So you get wrecked out of one, you just jump in the next one, And I saw this car on track a few times with some different paint jobs. Riding behind it, it's an ugly car. I just have to say it. I mean, the lines of the car, they're just very boxy compared to the other ones. They don't have any characteristic to it. I mean, if you look at the front shot where it shows you the front of the car, for example, look at where the headlights would be in the grill. I mean, they literally just made a rectangle. There's nothing to it.
Tell me Mike has no idea what happened to the Buicks in the 80s where they had pop-up lights. That would have been a pop-up light.
Anyway, it definitely looks different than the other two 87s, and I like that about this era of NASCAR. I mean, the Ford, the Chevy, and now this, I mean, they're three completely different cars. It's not like you can't even tell them apart. Like if you look at the trucks kind of thing, but there's no question they're different.
I think the Pontiac would have been the one that would have differentiated from everything, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you know, the Pontiac was in the poll they wanted to bring out, and I think the Buick won over top of it, right?
Yeah.
I think they actually made it like a decision to go with the Buick over the Pontiac because it had a lot of similar lines to the Oldsmobile, if I'm not mistaken. So you could kind of manipulate the paint job on this to be an Olds. So I think they kind of felt like they were getting two cars out of this one, where the Pontiac was so unique. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Pontiac in the future, though.
The Pontiac is the one I was hoping for because you're right. The Pontiac is so unique with the, I guess you call it a triangle front there that comes off the hood.
I'm not going to buy it, but I like to see it. I like to race against it. I'd like to have a fourth car out there. Like, you know, like you said, let's get a fourth one.
More cars, more fun.
Well, I think you would have. Did you not like drive one of these back in the 80s, Mike? Because it seems to me
Yep.
like everybody drove one of these damn things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like they were ugly back then, and well, you know, they did a good job because they are still kind of ugly now. So
It's an 86 Buick, right? That's why it says 86 on the side.
It could be same era, right? Now David said he was going to buy this because he used to drive one.
It's so funny you guys all saying that, and it was the 86. 86 was the year before I was born, and the 87 cars were the year I was born.
I drove in the back seat of these lots, you know, getting choked out by cigarette smoke.
Now,
But Mike,
I've seen some good paints when I was in those races. Like I remember the green Skull Bandit. It looked really sharp.
Yeah, Mike, you make a good point that, you know, it's really cool in this series that the three cars that are in it now much different than the other. You know, the current Cup cars, you know, if you just change the stickers around and the grill, you wouldn't be able to tell one car from the other.
Right. I mean, from any angle, this one's very clear. Like I said, wait till you get on track with it. You'll see what I mean. It looks different when you're looking at pictures of it than, I don't know what's different. I guess the back view is kind of odd.
And that's one thing showing these pictures Junior posted. You really only get the front shot, an angle of the front, and the side. You don't see that back of the car.
It's probably.
This kind of reminds me of the villain car in the Cars movie. The way that this car is, I don't think it's that year of car, but it kind of reminds me of that green car in the first Cars movie.
Yeah, Chick Hicks. Yeah.
Let's keep rolling. The next car, Tony.
Yeah, this one here, it doesn't have that uniqueness to me, but I'm kind of snobby-ish to this, or not snobby, ignorant would be the best. This would be the new Aston Martin Vantage GT4 that they put up. They said this beast looks mean, but
I hate the livery.
kind of looks like a Ferrari.
Actually, you know what it more looks like? It looks like a Mazda.
It sounds.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's one of the things that I thought when I saw the video that we're going to talk about a little later is the sound. It's really deep throaty sound. It reminds me a little bit of the Mercedes that everybody likes the sound of when you're racing around in those multi-class cars.
Well, you definitely know when you're out on the track with a lot of these GT3s and GT4 classes, the different engine tones. They all have a uniqueness to them, so which makes them people fall in love with them more too, right?
Well, they threw the road guys a bone. Got the GT4 car. So that was still. Remember, this is all pre-hype build. What else was pre-hype or pre-build hype, Greg? We saw in the garage.
Yeah, so we heard that there was a Formula car being made, but we didn't know. I don't know if did they ever really say beforehand if it was what series one it was, but they kind of show it sitting in the garage at that's that new track, that European track, right? That they only have the garage part in. But yeah, so this would be, I guess we'll announce it later in it, but it's the Formula 4.
Yeah, I think there was a leak on that. Like they spotted it on somebody's computer monitor, the name of it in a video or something.
Yeah, I think if you downloaded the last build right away, it made its name on the list as an FIA F4 car. And it got quickly pulled.
And
Yeah,
then Will, oh, go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna say, I went back from last week's show's notes, where we had the guy who categorized all the stuff he thought was going to be in this build, maybes and stuff like that. And this is one of the things that he had in there as a maybe. So it was definitely some word about IR4. So it was leaked to a point, but I don't think they really made a formal announcement.
Okay, and then Will, the next one was a track.
Yeah, this is the Winton Motor Raceway. I did not see this one coming at all. And being honest, I'm not super familiar with it. This is a track based out of Australia. It's kind of their short track of road courses, is kind of what I've read up on it in the description. But we got some high quality screenshots, some really good textures over the curbing. But yeah, no, it was kind of a surprise we were getting this, but they definitely tweeted those high res screenshots.
You know what this track reminds me of? It's the Australian version of VIR. It's kind of like it kind of like reminds me of take your car to the track type of and do some testing with your own personal daily driver kind of track. It's not overly complicated. It's just a bunch of turns.
Now we got the release notes, and then we got the final release notes. I don't think there's any differences between them, but it was nice that they released the notes ahead of time so people got a handle of what's coming. So let's go through that now. I'm going to cover stuff we haven't talked about yet, basically, but the Hyundai Velociter car, the stock car Pro Series Toyota Corolla Chevrolet Cruze, that's the Brazilian.
Those were awesome.
Yeah, and they're road cars, even though we call them NASCARs, but they're kind of like NASCAR, the way they do the sponsorship and stuff like that. Federated Auto Parts Raceway at I-55, dirt. Of course, Tony mentioned Winton. Net code improvements. Boy, I could have used that today.
Yeah, I saw that video.
I got wrecked by netcode today in the Phoenix race. Bad. Going down a straight line. New and updated multiple tire compound rules. That's for those F1 cars and such. New spotter calls for fuel usage, tire compound rules, and pit box calls. So guess what, guys? They added the countdown to pit road. Heard it last night, heard it today. 10, and then the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Timing is a little weird compared to the other one. I have both of them going. I got my sim racing apps, and now this new spotter call. I can't believe it's taken them that long to put this in there.
Yeah, it's about time that they did that too. Because I always seem to have a problem getting sim apps running right into the right headset. So it could be like coming through my VR. It could be coming through my monitor. I never seem to be able to figure it out. So now I can just get this right where I need it, and that's all I ever use sim racing apps for. So
Tony, there's two ways for sim racing apps. You either have a plug-in that tells it where to go, or it has to be whatever your Windows is default at. So that's usually where sim racing apps come through, is the default Windows.
oh well, there you go. Well, I don't have to worry. Simpletons like me don't have to worry about that no more. iRacing hooked us up.
All right. The GT3 class aerodynamic and tire updates. We'll go into this in detail later. We have a video. The NASCAR Camping World Truck Series 2022 season updates, like updated sponsorship, stickers and so forth.
But not the trucks, which is so weird that we have not gotten the new updated trucks.
New damage model is already enabled for the new Aston Martin Hyundai Veloster, the IR 04 Formula car, and the NASCAR Buick 1987.
So if you look at that, Mike, they only fell behind on 2 cars on this build, where they didn't do the Brazilian stock cars, and that's it. The rest of them they kept caught up with.
And those are the cars that are in existing series that already have the damaged model. So they kind of had to with the Aston, the Hyundai, because they were going to go into the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. And if they went in without the damage model, it would have took away damage from those other cars.
Yeah, so that makes sense why, but they didn't do it for create a new series with the Brazilian one to have it for it. But that's cool that they're getting more involved with getting them done in these builds.
I like the fact, like you said, that some of these cars are releasing damage model, AI, everything when they release the car. So it'd be neat if that's the new trend going forward, where they just get it all complete from day one. The next one, iRacing for the Aston Martin, Hyundai Veloster, and the F1 car, Mercedes. Now, I tried the Mercedes. This is one of the first things I tried in the build. I jumped in the new UI. I pulled up an AI race at Monza with like 60 F1 cars. And my steering wheel isn't really great for
3 times the amount of cars that'll be in it.
It's fun though, and it worked. And I was surprised that it worked so well. I mean, it was fun just to watch the AI race. Actually, I would wreck out and then I would watch them.
I just think it's good that these bigger series like the F1 car is getting the AI, because that'll help. That just helps learn a little bit more too when you're going around the track to practice with it.
Yeah, I kind of decided now that there's AI, when I get my new wheel and everything, I'm gonna make sure I'm up to speed with AI before I jump in a real race, and make sure I know how to handle the button pushing stuff. So that's really the intimidating part about that car, is like, oh, I got to figure out when to hit DRS, and I got to do all this other stuff, and yeah.
Does that mean there's going to be practice?
If you lead
AI
every lap,
races, it'll be different.
You could call them what you want. It's still practicing.
if you lead every lap, Mike, you don't need DRS.
There you go.
That's good.
I didn't have any buttons mapped or anything because I'm in my NASCAR wheel, and so I would get to the end of the straight and the cars are passing me because I'm not pushing the right buttons.
You're probably regenning all the time.
Anyway, I also saw a video from Nick Neben, who's been putting out videos on all the content. He's great. He did a F1 AI race at Bristol Motor Speedway, and it was fun to watch, to say the least. So they also added AI at other track configurations: Monza, Coda, Circuit de Villeneuve, Silverstone, Suzuka.
All the F1 tracks. Basically, it's all the F1 tracks.
The iRacing UI, of course, there's the multiple tire compound stuff. Let's see what else. Improved store for purchasing. Virtual reality. So there were some changes here where members are prompted when launching the simulator to select what are you going to use. Are you using monitors, triple, or VR? And up your settings doing this.
Yeah, I gotta change everything around anyways, so it's good. But I got a bunch of work to do tomorrow now because of it. I'm gonna run on a half setup system tonight when I get my league race. But I'm interested to see how the integration between, because I run VR and triples. I wonder how well it's gonna work with both of them.
So here's the experience. After the update, you launch the UI. It will ask you, triples. No, it'll say monitor, Oculus, or Open VR. Then it will ask you, do you want to copy over your INI, or do you want to run the graphics setup wizard, which it says recommended on that? And I picked copy the INI, because what that does is it copies over your settings from before, so they stay the same. And so what I've heard is some other users have hit the other option and then go on Facebook complaining, oh, my graphics are all jacked up now after the update. I don't know. Will, were you have any problem with that little message or getting through it?
No, I read it in one of the Discords I'm in to hit that middle option. It probably would have caught me out, but I save a copy of my app INI and render DX11 files separate. So if I ever do mess anything up, I can just copy and paste my originals in there and I'm good to go. So that's kind of how I protect myself on that one. But no, thankfully I was kind of given a heads up before I hit the recommended option, which really the real recommendation is hit that middle button.
I don't understand why it would, like, I know that it's part of the thing, but it should just should have revert. It should be more of a better option if it's from an update that you're having to do it instead of a choice. Like, you know, if you're going to graphics config and do it, that means, you know, you want to make that choice, but restarting it after it's done it, it kind of is a way to throw off people if they don't pay attention to it completely. I guess it's like reading the fine print, right? You screw up if you miss something in the fine print.
But to your point, Greg, why is iRacing even putting up that prompt? Why would anyone want to run the graphics config again and not pick this thing that they used yesterday, right?
Yeah. Hey, I'm trying to look through this thing here, Mike. Did you ever find what the updates were to the
Well,
there's the netcode. I was looking for the netcode.
now there's 3. They have one for monitor, they have one for Oculus, they have one for OpenVR. And so technically you could have all 3 of those setups at your cockpit and have separate INIs for all of them. So that's the big change that they've done here. So they took the original one and that's what this prompt does, takes the original one and copies it into the monitor INI, or whichever one you pick.
Just reading through some of these updates here, Mike. The netcode thing. I wanted to see what the actual update was for the netcode because of what your incident was today, and it said these changes are aimed to improve prediction behavior in a braking zone to prevent unintended nose-to-tail rear ending, mitigate bump draft errors, and improve the accuracy of vehicles vectors for door-to-door oval racing. So that didn't seem to help you at Phoenix.
Yeah, I was door to door. I mean, he came up on my door. I was running a straight line. It was at least 15 inches away or something, and it net coded.
One thing that caught my eye in the patch notes is they mentioned they reduced the friction of the wheels on the cars to stop it from grabbing the wall and enabling wall riding. Because I always feel like when I run and I get close to the wall, if I tap it a little bit, it sucks you in. So I'm hoping that's kind of gone away.
Well, Mike, do you remember when we did in North Wilkesboro with the 87 car? They warned the guys not to wall ride in qualifying because it would have been faster.
They sure did. Other things, I mean, I'm just looking through. There's tons of stuff as usual. We don't need to go over all of it, but the more spotter messages on fuel management. Now, I don't know if I've heard those yet. And then there's new spotter messages about the tire rules as well.
I think some of the guys are going to be, after last week, what I did to them in the fuel race for the Get Her Done League, they're going to be wanting those messages more.
They re-enabled the True Force by Logitech. If you remember, I think last quarter they turned that off for some reason. There was some problem with it. And the cars, GT3, I guess we'll talk about that when we get to the video, but there were tons of changes to aerodynamics on GT3.
there's another setting for your virtual mirror size as well in the app INI file, to where you can make it even smaller than the smallest setting that was there before.
Driver animations to the NASCAR Cup Series. I guess if you're in VR, you can see your feet moving.
That was there before.
Oh, was it?
I think there was issues
Yeah.
when it auto blipped the throttle that your leg would kind of spaz out. I think they resolved that.
Okay, makes sense.
So the next gen cars have visual updates as well. Going down the list, see if there's anything else I want to, that jumps out at me. But there's a lot of changes to existing stuff, just updates and fixes. So, Greg, to answer your question about 1986, there's actually a paragraph in here that references it. It says, from 86 to 87, the LeSabre was Buick's entry with the two-car Stavola Brothers racing team of Bobby Allison and Bobby Hillen and King's Racing single-car effort bringing the marquee to the track. The car quickly became recognized as a force to be reckoned with on the speedways. Allison gave the LeSabre its first victory at Talladega in May of 86. Kind of neat they threw a history lesson in there about the car.
They seem to do that with all these updates for new cars.
Yeah, and they feel like they put quite a bit of info in there because we didn't really get one of these hype videos for that car until today, which looks like it didn't make the script.
All right, well, let's start going through some of the hype stuff. Brian, let's talk about the video on I-55.
Okay, yeah. So I-55 is a dirt track. Uh, it is 3/8 of a mile long. Um, it's funny because I remember racing this track long ago when I was racing the Rat Bag dirt sprint car video game. So I remember racing that a while ago on that platform, and so now it's here in iRacing. Like a good video as usual.
Yeah, pretty cool. I don't know if I'm going to get this track. Not
Yeah,
doing
but
a lot of dirt.
yeah, they're when these dirt racing world championships come up, they're either going to have to extend the season or they're going to have to pick and choose tracks. Because it wasn't like 2 seasons ago they were having to use more tracks, the same track more than once to fill a full season. Now they got more tracks than they have races in the season. So, um, this I'm almost sure this will be in the next season of either the late model or the sprint car series, and they're going to have to start either expanding the season longer to get more tracks into this championship, or they're going to have to start weeding out some now.
Okay, and then Tony, we got a nice lesson on the Hyundai Veloster. I guess I'm saying that right.
Veloster.
Veloster.
Yeah, and I mean, he looked like he was talking a good game, but I didn't pre-watch this one, so I was able to kind of take a peek at it without the sound on. So it totally defeats the purpose of what the dude was telling me. And this guy's not Canadian, right, Greg?
I'm trying to remember. You put me on the spot.
I didn't want to Paul Tracy this one, but
Let me see I didn't see his name.
Yeah, it's Tyler Maxon, and he runs for Brian Herta Autosport, and he won the championship in this car.
I think 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
This is a pretty known car now because of their whole N series lineup in Hyundai. So it's kind of interesting that they've added this in. We saw it out of nowhere because they had the other Hyundai added in last build, right? Yeah, it was last build.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the Hyundai we already have is a newer car that was meant to replace the Velociter. So I think the Velociter was 2020, 2021, and then 2022 is supposed to be the Elantra, I believe. So I think a lot of people are expecting this car when iRacing first, teased they were bringing a Hyundai. So I'm really kind of surprised we got it. But it is cool because in this touring car racing, you will run an older chassis. It's not like a 1 year and done kind of car.
Yeah, these are the kind of cars my son is into. He's into the whole car scene, and he's in his mid-20s, and yeah, he loved it. I sent him this video. He was all over it.
Now, I can only go on the visuals, and I like the way this car looks. Like a lot better than that Aston Martin that we were talking about earlier. Oh, this one's just it's small, compact, but it's kind of got like a sleek meanness, if that's even anything. But that's what I see. I don't know. It just looks cool. I know nothing else about it.
Well, here's a little bit of an insider. I was kind of just staying quiet, but I used to drive a Hyundai Veloster. I bought them brand new when they first came out. I bought a brand new one, and then and then when they brought the turboed version out, I traded my non-turboed one in for a turbo one. That was probably 2013, I think they came out in. But yeah, these are pretty fun cars for a front-wheel drive car, and now these new end models of them are very powerful, and I'm kind of interested in this series, but I just don't know if I can add another series to race in for my busy schedule.
They look fun to drive for sure.
Another car that looks pretty fun to drive is the new Brazilian stock cars. We got a video from iRacing kind of promoting them with some help with Tony Kanaan. What do you guys think about this video?
These cars are not much different than the car we just talked about. I mean, I would, if it, a layman would, like me, would think they're in the same series probably.
Not with the same. They have a big horsepower difference, and the fact that I'm guessing both of these are rear-wheel drive too.
Yes, and that's the thing that's kind of confusing about them. When they first announced these, I assumed these were front-wheel drive cars, and I kind of assumed it would be like a touring car on steroids. But these are actually rear-wheel drive V8s. And I would love to know where to buy a Toyota Corolla that's a rear-wheel drive V8.
Both cars don't exist that way.
But I think this is really cool for iRacing. It's definitely not for everybody, but I think it's really awesome that they're doing kind of a regional content the same way Australian has the V8 supercars. This is really awesome for South America.
The funny thing is too is, I mean, if you look at it, it's kind of weird. Like we're running a rear-wheel drive car that's an actual front-wheel drive car, but it's no different than in the Cup Series where Toyota Camrys aren't rear-wheel drive; they're front-wheel drive, but yet they have it.
So Tony Kadaan did the voiceover on the video, and I guess he helped with the development of the cars as well, obviously.
He raced it, right, Mike? He races a series.
Yeah, he races this currently. That's part of it. I'm sure that he's the one who, tied everybody together for the scans, would be my guess. Since he's, as you called him, the ambassador to iRacing. I don't know if I'll buy this one either. I mean, like you said, my plate is full. Now,
It seems like this car would fit really well in between a GT3 and a V8 supercar, kind of in the middle.
Ladder car. They did a Twitch. Tony Kanaan and Tuesday morning when the release was out, being put out. I didn't wake up to look at it, but I was hoping, and we were talking throughout the week that because they said, "Hey, we're gonna have a big surprise on the Twitch Tuesday morning." So I was thinking, "Oh, they're gonna show these cars. They'll show them at Brazil, and then they'll have the rain come on." But guess what? No rain.
Yeah, I thought that was a little underwhelming because it was pretty easy to guess that's what it might have been. I was hoping it'd be something bigger because everything was already pretty much announced already, so it wasn't anything new. It was just Tony Kanaan actually driving in the series.
Right. It was just the wrong choice of words. I mean, he said, "Oh, we're going to have a surprise," but then later they announced the cars anyway, so we knew they were coming, and yeah. The next video was the Aston Martin Vantage GT4, but the pre-hype we just had a screenshot. Now we got a nice video, and I think one of you guys said it sounded really beefy.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a monster. It definitely does not sound like the other cars in the class. So I feel like you'll hear this one coming up behind you for sure.
I was gonna say this seems very, very beastie compared to like the other classes cars with like they're all kind of like tame.
So this is the first Aston Martin car in the sim, right?
Second.
Aston Martins. Is there another one?
Yeah, there was one that doesn't get used anymore in any of the classes. I don't think. I think if it's not put in the legendary thing or whatever you call it, archives, but I don't think it's used in anything.
Yeah, I think it still races with the old GT1 Corvette. I think it falls under the GT1.
That's what it is. Yeah, I forgot about that car.
This next video, Greg, really made me want to go road racing after listening to Christian.
Now, Mike, I haven't really got a chance to go through this video. Do you remember what he was saying completely in it?
Well, absolutely. So they did a GT3 overhaul, basically, on all the GT3 cars as a whole, aerodynamically and mechanically, I guess you would say. But he described, you're going to have even better braking than you did before. These things are going to they should be braking better than they used to now. The aero is tweaked. Everything is tweaked. It's not like there's major changes. These are all just tweaks. I don't remember specifically beyond that, but yeah, if you're interested, you should take a moment and watch this, because after hearing it, I'm like, man, that sounds like it's real racy. Let's go try it.
Well, I have a GT3 race tonight, and I'm running a Lamborghini, and I did a quick couple test laps with it beforehand at Long Beach, and it definitely did feel different, but I don't have enough seat time in the GT3s to know completely how much different it felt. And I think Long Beach might not be one of the tracks that's a good characteristic for it, because it's not a really huge high-speed track. It's more like obviously being a street course. So I'd be interested to see how it would have operated at Daytona and the high-speed corners and things like that.
Yeah, it sounded like a lot of the changes, they kind of said you would feel more changes at a high speed with the high downforce, lower downforce, and medium downforce you wouldn't notice as much. There was some changes to the tires, so there is going to be performance fall off if you do like 2 stints. It'll still be drivable, but you can't just do 3-4 stints and not worry about it. They talked about the diffusers stalling out and stuff, so it sounds like a really huge quality of life and just bringing the sim more in line with real life.
I feel like the GT cars always have when you're in the IMSA events or anything like that with these cars, or even in just their series, when you double stint tires, there is no penalty for it. Like, the second stint is basically identical to the first stint. When you put fuel in it, it's a little bit tough to drive for the first couple laps, and then when it just stabilizes back out, and I just feel you don't have any penalty to it. There should be tire fall off, and you should know on that second stint that it's low. So I'm kind of glad that they kind of doing this, because then it makes you feel, or makes you think like, okay, maybe I take tires, and on the if you got a longer race, you can go. Tires might make an advantage on if somebody doesn't to when somebody does.
And the way I kind of understood it, I was at work, so I wasn't paying like 100% attention, but it sounded more like it had to do with the heat cycles than it did with just overall wear. So if you're not abusing your tires, it'd be easier to do 2 stints rather than if you got them really hot, cooled them down, slowing down on pit road. So it sounded like it wasn't just wear as much as it was heat cycles as well.
Wonder how many people it catches off guard right at the the first time you try that and you like abuse the tires late in the run trying to run a fast lap or something like that.
I gotta say, the work that goes into this type of change, where nobody would have said anything if they didn't change anything on this particular type of car, probably. But they work on it. They got these professional people that are, professional racers. They got professional engineers, and they figure out, hey, we need to adjust this. This isn't right. We need to do this when they're at high speed. We need to have more tire fall off. And then they make the change. I mean, that's what's so cool about iRacing is it's always evolving. The next one is the Formula IRO4 video. Basically shows a lap around the track, shows some glamour shots of the car up front. It's a typical ladder open wheel car, right?
It's also another Halo car, which a lot of the smaller series don't have Halos, right?
They do now. No, this is the car. Like I said, it's branded IRO4 because there's not really a national or international championship with the same chassis. There's different chassis around the world. It's more of a regional series, so I think that's why it got branded IRO4. And it's really kind of what's replacing the Skip Barber car in real life. So this was definitely needed for iRacing to stay relevant at that lower level. But it does feel like we've gotten a ton of open wheel cars lately. And it's kind of a confusing ladder unless you really, really know what's going on.
Well, this is kind of an odd change to the Skip Barber because that's a lot more powerful than a Skip Barber car.
I like that there's a ladder system with the open wheel cars, and like I said, I intend to kind of try to get into these type of cars this year. And if I'm going to start right on the F1, but if it's not working well, I may backtrack. I may go down to something like this and just sow my oats a little bit.
I would not be surprised if this eventually takes the place of the Renault 2.0. You have the USF 2000, which is kind of the baseline of the ladder towards IndyCar, where this car would be kind of like the baseline ladder towards F1. And that's kind of where it falls.
Well, are you surprised that they haven't scanned the Indy lights to try and run as a lower division for the IndyCar?
In my opinion, they're only missing 3 open wheel cars at this point. Indy lights, which there's really no substitute for. F2, which is kind of substituted by the Renault 3.5, and a classic late 90s, early 90s kart car. Once they have those 3, I think they're done with open wheels, other than new cars moving forward, like the 2022 spec Mercedes.
See, when I think of the kart car, all I think of is Sylvester Stallone in the Driven movie.
Dario Franchitti, all those guys, man, it was 1,000 horsepower with turbo.
Yeah, I feel like I wish Dale Jr. just did the podcast with Al Unser Jr. Those guys paired up with the classic Indy car from that 90s range. I think that would have as much hype, if not more hype, than the classic NASCAR cars. And that would be perfect for retro open wheel cars, and that only leaves Indy lights and F2 at that point.
Wouldn't that be the most powerful car too?
Well, you still have the hybrids.
I mean, I don't know. We're talking lots of horsepower. Lots of horsepower.
I mean, the LMP1 is up there in horsepower with the 2 motors.
I think like power to weight to downforce and drag and everything, I would say it's probably be one of the higher performance vehicles. It may not be the quickest because it doesn't have the most downforce. But I feel like it would be a driver's car.
Okay, Tony, and then what were we hoping for that we didn't get?
Well, Kyle Zimmer, as I'm sure many of us were kind of bummed out that no new Atlanta track was in this build. Everybody's kind of figuring that was going to happen, um, especially since Atlanta's a couple weeks away, and nothing. Maybe do you think maybe we could see it in a couple weeks? Maybe they wanted to release it, and you know, some bugs are happening or whatever. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, that's
this.
what I'm thinking is maybe we'll still get it.
I mean, we can hold on, but they do go like the Coke Series does go to Atlanta twice, correct?
Well, they go there next, and so that's why we were thinking we would get it.
Yeah, I no, I realize that, but um, I'm pretty sure they'll be there again. So maybe for the next time, if we don't see it in the next next patch, maybe.
I just find it odd that if it's something that, I mean, obviously it was just a render when they kind of created it on iRacing, and now that they're going after building it in real life from what iRacing tested. But do they have to rescan it then and figure it all out? I mean, maybe that's what's holding it up.
They were down there in December, I think, scanning it.
Yeah, so it's
And there had to be some kind of delay in them scanning it and getting out on time because it made everything lined up for them to have it for this Kirk race. But I don't think they can do it anytime before the race start. I mean, the race is in 5 days, something like that. They're not going to have those guys run a new track without having any significant amount of testing time.
Agreed.
My only thought is this track was built assuming the Cup cars would stay 550 package, and then we've gone away from that everywhere else except here. I almost wonder if they're just going to hold off on it to get more real world data to make sure what we get matches accurately, because all iRacing has to do is to tweak the 550 next gen car for us to kind of match the real world, and it's done. So I'm assuming it's just because they want that real world data.
NASCAR Twitter today is talking about NASCAR is thinking about engaging the double yellow line rule for Atlanta this year, make it a true restrictor plate race. And then people were saying, let's rename it to Atlanta Dega.
That's a good one. So I actually agree with some of the replies in this thread. It's like, I don't know. I kind of like the old, worn out Atlanta, and I kind of do too. The tires are a lot more of a factor, so there's a little bit more tire saving strategy that comes into these races. I think a new surface like that's going to be a little higher bank. The tires aren't going to wear out quite as much. So, um, you know, although I do like the idea of being current with the current NASCAR schedule and the current track configurations, I wasn't excited to get rid of Atlanta in the first place.
I totally agree with you, Brian. That track is so much fun because of the wear, and the fact that you got to drive it. And I'm really interested, when we get there in 2 weeks in NIS, and if it is the old track, what it'll be like to drive this package on that track, and what kind of tire wear we'll see with it.
Atlanta Dega. I can't wait.
What about Atlanta Tona?
All right, next up, this was clever this week. In a series of YouTube videos, some of sim racing's top streamers like Dave Cam, Matt Malone, Race Beyond Matter posted videos of horrors of iRacing addiction. Unfortunately, in this sometimes humorless world, some took the satire videos the wrong way, and content creators like Erman Ham Sandwich had to remove their posts because of some misdirected backlash. And I first saw this with Dave Cam, our buddy Dave. A great video. He's kind of lamenting is the word. I'm spending all my time in the garage, and all my money is going to this equipment, and I don't have time for the wife, and and all this kind of stuff. And And so Matt Malone, I mean, he took it to the next level by having his wife actually create a video, and she is lamenting, and she called her video "The Wife of a Sim Racer." He's always missing, and that kind of stuff. And Tony, I immediately thought of you and your better half, and I thought she might get a kick out of this.
Oh, she totally got a kick out of it, but she's a complete enabler. I mean, she's right beside me doing it at the same time. So, she definitely has a different spin, but she's still got a chuckle.
Is this another stupid thing from the weak crowd again? That the cancel culture, the weak crowd, the people that can't that need help putting their pants on.
Well, the ham sandwich guy, yeah, he couldn't take it. He had to actually remove his video. He took it down because of the cancel culture crap.
When I saw Dave Cam's video first, and that dude's a good actor, man. I thought something really happened at first. I was like, dang, what happened? What's going on here? And once I realized it was a joke, I'm like, oh, okay, you got me. And I clicked off and saw other posts about it, and I'm not surprised there was drama because of some people having fun.
I think the thing with Dave Cam is he's always so even keel in his videos. He doesn't get high or low, so when he does something like this, it's like it doesn't change his tone. You kind of gotta buy it, right?
And then so other YouTubers got involved in the game as well. And this guy, which we've gotten some videos from before, called Race Beyond Matter, he did one.
Yeah, that was a good one too because he references a lot of the other streamers in it, and he said, next thing you'll know, you'll be getting triple 65-inch screens like Will Ford at Boosted Media. You'll be wearing your helmets in a simulation race. It's like it was really funny.
You'll be wearing a fire suit and gloves, and yeah, all this stuff. Yeah, you'll be.
He was a little.
Go
He was
ahead.
a little tougher to understand because of his accent, but if you really listen to what he's saying, it's really funny. He does a good job too.
Now, we talked
But
about this
I
in the
really like that.
Discord chat this week as well. And when we did, Oz in the chat told us, or he sent us a quote of what Erman Ham Sandwich said about this. He said, "Hi, everyone. Tonight I uploaded 100% satirical video in the same spirit as the one in which I was called out to answer. Because a number of people took it seriously and started abusing good creators in the sim racing scene, I've taken it down. Be good to one another. We don't need any more division in this world."
Boy, isn't that right?
How about we talk about another topic that wants to divide people in their opinions on the road to pro?
Brian, thing as well.
Yeah, so Brian Blackford tweeted and directly copied Steve Myers that he thinks the Trucks is not a challenging enough series to be the road to pro qualifying vehicle, and it doesn't show off the talent in the division. He's willing to die on that hill. It's a pretty strong statement.
You're trying to start a conversation, is what, let's talk about it. Is this the right thing that we should be doing?
I just don't understand why you qualify in the road to pro truck like the Trucks, then you move to the I get why they were doing the Trucks Xfinity Cup, but I think it should just be Xfinity Cup. Trucks has always been around as a C series. It's not like, it's a C or lower series. It's a feeder. I don't know if it should be considered the one to qualify for.
I don't mind it being one to qualify for Road to Pro. My biggest criticism is the Road to Pro, or the Xfinity series of the ladder, is too short, and I don't think it really gives you time to show. I think the Trucks is a good way to see if you could handle the schedule and the commitment, Because that's the first thing is you got to be able to make the time to put in the work. And I think the truck does a good job of filtering people out at that level. And then the Xfinity car should be about, do you have the talent? And it does obviously take talent in the truck as well. It's just a different kind of talent. I understand what he's saying, but I think the biggest issue is that middle series. And I don't know how you fix it because you can't run it alongside Coke with people dropping out. So I'm not sure how you properly fix it. I just think the issue is more in the middle of the chain than it is the beginning of it.
A lot of the people said what Greg said, which is run the Xfinity instead. In a related tweet, Boyd Hogan said, Road to Pro should be one of the current cars, and thinks the top 3 series cars need more off-throttle time to make better racing.
Well, I mean, we had all 3 of these series had off-throttle time, and then NASCAR just started to fiddling with these cars, and now they've realized that they screwed them up, and they started going back. I mean, the Xfinity car is probably one of the more exciting cars to drive on the sim. The trucks was always a hit or miss depending on the track, and the Cup cars, no offense last season, and I'll die on this hill, but they sucked last year compared to what they are this year. But better racing is when you have to start race somebody by on and off the throttle. Trying to draft somebody and get on the throttle real fast after just being out of it for like a second isn't real racing to me. That's all basically setup making. It's not. There is no racing element involved.
Yeah, you're right, Greg. Talladega and Daytona are enough draft tracks for the series. They don't have to have every mile and a half track be a drafting track, and every mile and a half and higher. So you're definitely right, and we're finding out real quick with this next gen car that these you're not able to hammer down the throttle anymore, and it's making for better racing. There's a learning curve I think that's involved because so many people have been so used to these cars that are so glued to the track you can't mess them up. But I think in the long run it's going to be better in general, and because of that.
Well, you heard it first. Boyd Hogan wants all road courses if he wants on and off throttle time. He wants all road courses, and I'm gonna die on that hill saying that we should have all road courses in the NIS series. I just want to see all your faces.
Any replies from Steve Myers or iRacing on any of these threads that I saw? So it's no question. I'm sure they saw it, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's iRacing's decision about what car is used in Road to Pro for the eNASCAR series. I think it's NASCAR's decision.
Is it sponsored by anything? Because if it's not sponsored by anything, it would be all dictated by iRacing. The only one that would dictate it is the Coke series, and with NASCAR, it's not a real sanctioned event for that whole thing.
NASCAR umbrella. If they're all under the eNASCAR umbrella, then it's all NASCAR then, right?
I still don't think NASCAR has a say in those ones. They only care about the one that's televised.
I think NASCAR has a say in everything.
Yeah,
and
they're in bed with NASCAR.
I'm surprised they haven't reached out.
Hold on. If that's the case, then why is the truck old? Why are we running a Road to Pro with a truck from last year?
Good point.
Sorry, Will.
Brian, we have a quick hit.
Yeah, this is a really quick hit. The Into the Apex is another podcast that talks iRacing, and they had a special guest, Aaron David Hall. It'd be nice if he was here to talk a little bit about it. But I did listen to it. He did a fantastic job representing iRacing and representing himself, really. They opened the program just talking about how that these podcasts are not competitive with each other, that we're all trying to lift all the raise all boats by by collaborating together and working together and things like that. And he went through a lot of oval stuff. Those guys apparently are more road oriented than we are on our show. But David was a good guest to have to bring that second type of racing to the program. He talked about his pedals, the SimCoach P1 Pro pedals that he has, and how much they've improved his racing. So he was on there and did a great job.
Yeah, I listened. I haven't really heard this podcast before, and so now I may just put that into my list.
And yeah, 'cause him being on there might expose some of their listeners to our show, and vice versa if we are able to get one of the guys on here.
Famous streamer David Hall.
Yeah, so we're going to have one of those guys on the show. We'll do a record with them and get them on. So cool. All right, Will, we have a new Skip Barber Formula iRacing series.
Yeah, they're advertising it as returning, and I feel like they've done something in the past, but this seems like on a whole nother level here. This is a series using the new IR04 we talked about, in partnership with Skip Barber. It's a hot lap challenge. Top 20 qualify for a race. So it looks like Monday through Wednesday for the next 6 weeks, you can qualify in, and then you race on Sunday. And then obviously Monday restarts for the next week. It goes to Lime Rock, VIR, Watkins Glen, Laguna Seca, Road America, then Sebring. There's a lot of prizes involved. I think top prize includes driving a Skip Barber car. I haven't really kind of dug through all the prizes yet. Yeah, but there's some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, 5-day competition school in the Skip Barber coach, in the real thing. So that's if you win the championship. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other prizes, credits, and stuff involved. All together, as you're looking at, it's saying over $500,000 in prizes at stake.
I saw the $500,000 number, and I looked down at kind of everything broken out. I don't see where the $500,000 number comes from, but
yeah, I kind of question that as well. I mean, unless it's really expensive to do a 5-day test.
right. Maybe that's how much the whole racetrack cost. I don't know.
Is it 5-day test plus they're putting you up in hotel, food?
But it's at VIR.
And another note, it is a $20 entry fee. I'm not sure how that's gonna work. But there is a $20 entry fee.
So you have to click on the link and basically pay the entry fee. This is interesting. Have we had an